Christian.
All right, Maria, good morning everybody and welcome to the Vincent Community Board meeting for the 30th of April 2024. We march on to the first day of May tomorrow. And this morning I have no apologies from anyone, which is wonderful. So we will get straight into the public forum. And Martin is going to excuse himself at this point because he is conflicted. And the main
I'd like to
guts
hear
of
any
our
wonderful things
meeting.
you want to say. I can't.
So thank you very much for attending.
Don't forget your jacket, Martin.
I've got Teams later, so I'll read that at my leisure when I get home.
Wonderful. Thank you, Manny.
Nice to see you.
And we welcome him.
Hello. Good morning. What you'd like to kick off is, have you approved the financial statements? Would we could go through that first, or just the grant in general? Or?
You'd just like to go through probably the grant in general and anything that you feel we should know about the financial statements.
Yeah, so, okay, I'll look them both in. So the grant in general, I noted, I think I read that recommendation what we put through for a grant of 24,500. I think we recommended at 20,000 on that. So noting that recommendation, linked back onto the last financial statements for the last Blossom Festival, we broke even, so it showed that where our budget was, we came along with that budget, but that there's not much room for error. We were probably 2 hours of bad weather away from a complete sort of COVID event for the Blossom Festival, I'd say, where if you go to the notes, we make about 100 grand on the day off that through bar sales and ticket sales and market sales that would be refunded. So I note in the accounts we've got reserves in there, good reserves, but that's sort of one event away from into a low reserve position if that occurred. Okay, so we always try to aim to break even, small profit. That's where any non-for-profit should aim. Which I tell a few of them that they don't listen, but we try to break that thing even. But that grant that helps us top that up in that way, and all our funding is short term, so by that I mean is we come here annually for it, so there's a bit of uncertainty there, along with sponsors such as Contact have done a lot for us, which, touch wood, we have a new agreement with them in the next coming months to hopefully support us as well. So they've been through themselves in a corporate review, so nothing's ever set in stone for life, so we're always trying to forward plan as best as possible the funding to deliver this event, which I think everybody would agree is a marquee event for Alex and in general, and our media showed that this year as well. We've really got a really good penetration rate in local and wider to attract people. So on that basis, I guess it's happy with accounts. Accounts have been subsequently reviewed and signed off by ICL as well. I'll just note that for minutes as well. There were drafts that were finished by the time we submitted those, and would recommend or appreciate committee sort of reviewing the grant amount we received back to what we requested, essentially. It's just, yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Tim? I just had one. On the back of last year, I just wondered if the whole thing had to be canned at the very last minute, what would the call on your reserves be to cope with that loss?
About 100k. So, and I'd refer to that where I linked that back to in the notes that break down the revenue. On the day, there's bar sales, ticket sales, market sales. We'd refund that. We just would to give them back. This organisation, and we've got really good market stalls. We've got good sales for this year, showing how well the event's going from everybody's counterparty's perspective. But it was 97 last year. That would be close to what would sink it, and we were pretty close. The gods came out in the sun just in time, and everybody had enough of the rain earlier in the week that came out. So yeah. And I link in, the thing that amazed me of this is I think we make, I think it's about 230 grand we got last year in terms of be it council funding, other sponsor funding, and on the day. And that does flow through the community in quite nice ways in our businesses. It's quite unique. I can't name another one of this size in the regions in New Zealand, but we raise that and push it through the community in good ways and differently. So I think it's something we need to just try and maintain and preserve in that way if we can, as a council, with our sponsors and with volunteers as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Good.
I encourage people to start thinking about what they might like to name their float for.
Yes, correct. They're already underway.
Starting.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear Sweet Events, Spirit Woman in Gold Rush, Neil. Thank you. You do have 5 minutes, so feel free to add anything to your application that you feel wasn't covered or highlight anything that you felt was important for the board.
Sure. Well, I'll start with Spirit of Woman. As you may all know, some of you may know that my wife and I moved to Alexandra back in 2019 and brought a family and business here. In 2020, we delivered a successful Spirit of Woman here in Alexandra. It was the first time we brought it from the North Island. We fortunately avoided COVID just and got that away. The event attracted 1,650 people in total. That was 175 teams of 4 women and 600 travelling supporters. Subsequently, sorry, I shouldn't be reading from this. A bit slow doing that. Subsequently, we've delivered in Marlborough in 2021, in Wanaka, which was postponed because of Omicron, and eventually we delivered in 23, and in Cromwell in 24. And we promised, due to the fact that we didn't meet target on delivering here in Alexandra, that we would bring it back to this region soon, and we intend to deliver in Clyde in February next year, 25. Since the 175 teams we got here in Alexandra, the event grew to become the biggest adventure race in the world in Wanaka. 500 teams and over 2,000 women participating, plus obviously the supporters. But since then, obviously, we've seen a decline in the economy and stuff like that. So our entries, have been dropping. And then Cromwell, where we did it last year, we had 340 entries. That said, they stay for 3 days, 2 nights. So the economic value to the region is still significant. Last year we got some support from the Cromwell Community Board to help with our promotion. We hadn't reached break even at that point. It was later in the year, and we managed to secure $4,000 to help really push the event through social media channels and websites and stuff like that, which we found most effective. That enabled us to get another 26 additional teams for 4 women plus visitors, which might not sound much, but it helped us, break even and get over that point. And it also had a significant effect on the impact that we brought to that region. Stats from that promotion showed that we reached 230,000 people through our Facebook promotions alone, had a post engagement of 45,000 people, and had some video reels played through 19,000 times. So money spent promoting the event through Facebook, what we've learned over the last 20 odd years is very effective. Although it's costing us more each year, it's still very effective. Currently, we released our entries for our Clyde event on February the 14th. Literally 12 months in advance. And now, as I speak, we have, with 8 to 10 months to go, we have 235 teams registered. Nearly 950 women already coming to Clyde next February, with obviously their supporters as well. But we're still 45 teams shy of break even. And from what we've learned through our trends, we get the majority of our entries early on, and then it's really a trickle. So from October last year through to February this year, we gained another 26 entries, and we're hopeful with some support and really leveraging our Facebook promotion of attracting another 45 entries to Clyde to help us break even. So we would love the support from this community board, and who are here to help us, grow Spirit of Women event next year in Clyde.
Is
So,
there anything you want to cover off for the gold rush?
do you want any questions about Spirit of Women first?
Yep.
I have one question.
Yeah.
I guess, I'm on the, I should just declare that I'm on the Central Otago and Peace Shows committee. So we've had clashes.
Well, we clashed, yes, so we
Spirit
moved
of
our
Women.
date, we moved our date.
Yes, we're
You
very,
and I
very
spoke
happy
on-
to see,
Yes.
to see that you've done that, because obviously there is quite a lot of women involved in that. That would be interested in that. So having the ability to not clash with things that have been long-standing in the community as well. But
Unfortunately, last year we did,
yeah,
and
there was a
obviously.
few dads walking around with kids. Which isn't a bad thing either. So, but yeah, so just that conflict of dates, just making sure that is.
Yeah,
But I really support the whole concept. So
we try very hard, obviously, with our event being a secret event involving many different landowners over a big canvas. And those landowners have different operations, whether it be vineyards, sheep, dairy, whatever farming. We have to work in with what they do at those times of years, and we've got to look at other events, like Challenge Monica and Mototaku and other things like that. So finding an ideal date, or a perfect date is impossible. You're always going to clash with something, but we've made a big effort this year to avoid.
it's awesome. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Have you got a sense of the demographics that, like,
Sure.
2 to 3 years, is it changing? Are you getting continual repeat offenders, or are you getting a lot more?
No, it's typically, it used to be very much repeat people, but now we're finding a lot more newcomers. It's harder to retain people. They sort of tick it off a bucket list, even though the event changes each year because it moves to a different destination, has a different course. We're finding that, people, say they've done that and they've moved on to something else. We do at the moment have around about 50%, but it used to be higher return. It's just the way things are. The demographic still 45 plus age group. And a lot of them do bring their families, the husbands, take the kids, or the partners take the kids to do other things while they're here. But then some of them just like to break away, with everybody at home and do their good things to the weekend away.
Been confirmed. Multiple women in this room have on several occasions enjoyed breaks away from our families and enjoyed the good event. The Gold Rush, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, who doesn't know about the Gold Rush? I hope you all do. It started Neville Rich started it in 1997. It ran through to about 2011, 2012 under them. Then a good friend of mine, Tim Pearson, who won that event multiple times and used to live here in Central Otago, picked it up for a couple of years. But in 2014, it dropped away. Neville Rich was too busy doing other things. Tim moved away and was too busy building. So for the last 10 years, it's been absent from the calendar. It was an event that was bigger than the Coast to Coast. It was an event that was one of the first to have online entries, and used to release it at 12 midnight and sell out overnight, well, in the space of an hour at 12 midnight through 1 o'clock. Used to get a great number of people, 500 entries on it, which is team and individuals plus all the supporters to this region. Used to run on Otago Anniversary weekend each year. What we're looking to do is bring that back, and bring it back in such a fashion that it stays and is an annual event in this region. The course will be entirely different, basically due to landowners and making it impossible to do the same course. But we feel the course is better suited to the population and what they like these days. It's going to be based from Clyde. We hope to run it on the same Otago anniversary weekend each year, and keep a lot of the things the same. We've got Graham Sydney's support, and we'll love to keep giving away prints of his as trophies and stuff like that. We're using some a similar thing. Obviously, the course doesn't have road biking anymore. We're off the roads. It has paddling, off-road running, and mountain biking. It's going to be 2 days instead of 3, and it'll be 2 loops. One loop south of Clyde and back to Clyde, and one loop north of Clyde and back to Clyde, with significant stages in each. We hope over the period of 3 years, I've started all of the events that I've run, I've started from scratch, and typically it takes about 3 years for the event to be sustainable. But we hope after 3 years, we've got an event that stands on its own feet and is really strong, and hopefully sells out. Our Spirited Woman event, both the North Island and South Island, after 3 years. We've got significant costs ahead of us to start up a new event, and to get it, to really promote it well, and make sure that we get as close to break even as possible. I don't expect to in the first year, in which case we're going to have to put my wife and I are going to have to put our hands in our own pockets. But after 3 years, we're hoping there's making us an income. I don't know how much more you want to.
No, that's fine.
So we really need some help promoting this event, and without that help, we probably won't move forward. And when I put in the application, we hadn't applied for any more funding. We have now. MB have put out a new event promotion scheme, and it runs through RTOs, so Hans Longman, and so we put in an application for some more funding there as well, because we need everything we can get. And for the last, I'd say, 9 months, we've been trying to chase a title sponsor, and haven't been successful. But we're still hopeful that with funding from different areas, we can take away a lot of the risk that lies on this.
Questions?
Both the Spirited Women and the Gold Rush seem to be very worthy events, and I think they both sound very exciting. But with limited funding, if we had to choose between one and the other, which in your mind would get the priority in terms of our funding? If
I was to sit in your shoes, Spirited Woman, and I've told this to Ants, if his MB thing was oversubscribed. Spirited Woman is an event that is established. It's been around whilst it is, seeing a downturn. We've got entries out and we've got all the equipment, and we just need a little bit of extra help to get that to that break-even point. Gold Rush is an event that's not there. It's not here. It's not bringing anything, and it won't bring anything to the region unless we can get it started. So if I was sitting in your shoes, I'd give as much help to the Gold Rush to get that back on the calendar annually, and see, an event that was up there with Blossom Festival and other events like that, in popularity and putting Central Otago on the map, So that's where, that's I'll do.
So the Gold Rush, I remember like kids that used to throw themselves at the wall on Gold Rush. Was a pretty special story back when it was flying. What are your sort of thoughts around how you keep that currency going? Because that's the challenging part to market to demographic, young people.
Yeah, it's a different, like I was a mob supporter back in my day. And whilst I was engaged with all those, it is totally different now. And Obviously, social media is going to be a great asset to us, but also finding people that can help promote us, promote the event, that are sort of celebrities, you know, iconic people. People like Dougal Allen, who's won the event, has won the Coast to Coast, has become an Ironman, now sails Team New Zealand as a cyclometer. Richie McCoy, that, you know, the All Blacks, and now participates in event races and multisport events. So hopefully using them, but also the Coast to Coast as well. And it's not going to be cheap to tap into the Coast to Coast and their database to promote our event. But it needs to be done. And if I was sitting in the Coast shoes, they need, you know, other events out there that people can train for and do to, you know, help feed their event as well. So yeah, just doing that kind of stuff. Relationships are really important, and being able to find those that spark other people's interests or that they're linked to is really important.
I said one question, Neil.
Yeah.
It's been raised to me a number of times, every time I've done Spirited Women, is what is there for blokes? That's the difference between doing nothing and doing an elite level event, the kind of the God Zone and the Coast to Coast where you're putting in 12 months or more of training. Because I saw this come up initially and I thought, oh, cool. And then I saw the maps and the time frame and thought, no, that's not a beginner's event. Is it?
Oh, I mean, you saw the Gold Rush.
What it was going to be.
Okay, so basically the Gold Rush, yes, you're right. The Gold Rush would probably only interest those women doing the long course Spirited Woman event.
No, I mean for the guys. Like there's a lot of guys I know who would love to be involved in adventure racing or multi-sport racing that are not in that God Zone, ex-All Black or ex-competitive professional athlete. Is there anything in the pipeline that
The Spirited Woman, that's
that's
equivalent for me.
effectively for men? I think.
Men are a different breed. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys know, but I used to ride when I lived in Rotorua, the world's biggest enduro mountain bike series. So enduro is where you cruise uphill and race downhill. It's linger and die, as Phil Oliver used to run this area, which unfortunately may not occur again. We'll see. So and you know, they finished, and instead of getting a glass and some bubbles and, you know, doted on like the women at the finish line, it was a sausage roll and beer, and it's more short, adrenaline pumping, risk taking, that kind of stuff. So I'd love to bring back, well, not bring back, but to take over Linger and Die from Phil. But there's a lot up in the air at the moment in regards to Martini and their concession with Lens and stuff like that. And it really needs to be a bigger event, which I can make it, but it needs to be allowed to get bigger to be an event that I look at bringing back for the men.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
All right, I'm glad to start training. Thank you very much, Neil, for coming.
Thank you. Yes.
Is it? Okay. Clyde Classic, Tom. Welcome.
Hello everyone. Do you want a brief overview of the event?
Yeah, just anything you want to add in addition to your application when you read it.
Yeah. So really not too much to add. So I'll just give you a brief overview of it. Yeah, I'm a first-time event holder, hopefully. The event is taking inspiration from the 10K road race, but obviously no longer happening. But to turn it into a more community and family-friendly event, there'll be a 21K half marathon, 10K 5K, plus a family / kind of kids race. The event will be held in conjunction with Clyde School. And the idea is that the proceeds of the 5K and the kids race will go to the Clyde School PTA as a fundraiser. The event itself will be held at Clyde School, which is already secured. And then it'll go up over the dam and then utilise the river tracks as well. Yeah, I've been running for 8 years and doing lots of events for 8 years. So kind of what makes a good event, having a good course is really half of it, and having a good atmosphere where there's real good community feel is also pretty key. I'm not looking to turn this into the next Queenstown Marathon. I'm not expecting like thousands of people, but the idea is to grow it into a medium-sized event where we are bringing in potentially 800 people into the area. It'll be held early on a Saturday morning, so if people are coming out of town, hopefully they'll make a weekend of it. They'll be staying Friday night and then Saturday night. Yeah, and then hopefully bringing people from the local like major hubs. So you've got Dunedin, large, Christchurch, Queenstown and Wanaka, plus for locals. There's so many active people around here, so yeah, hopefully the event is a success.
I just wondered if you made an approach to contact you about possibilities using this.
Yeah, did early on last year, and that was positive. So I do need to get back in contact with them.
And the only other thing I noted was Clyde businesses have suffered through a lot of road closures recently. Do you think there's the possibility to run it without closing the road?
Yeah, so the road will be closed, or I'm in talks with the several traffic management companies. I'm all up for the idea, and I've said to them, like, they're the experts. If we can get away with just having one lane closed, not full road closure, then we'll go with that. But it should bring in more people to the town over that weekend. It's planned for October the 19th, which is not a busy time of year for cafes or the bike hire places. So, yeah, people are active. Hopefully they'll come down, run on the Saturday, and then if they're staying for the Sunday, they'll be hiring bikes or at least staying around, enjoying their cafes and the local pub around Clyde. So, yeah, I do also know quite a few of the business owners on Sunderland Street. So there's a hope there that I can manage those relationships in a positive way.
Clearly, Chair. Project.
A great initiative. Have you, you've obviously got the support of Clyde School, is that right? And then that's all part of the planning.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah, so I was approved by the school board back in November, I believe, October time. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we've got full use of the grounds, not the buildings, but yeah, it's understandable.
Just traffic management, that's the estimated cost that you've got there. Is that an estimate or is that you've got to be confirmed?
That's to be confirmed. I'm in talks with three of the local traffic management ones. I'm trying to get even a ballpark figure out of them is difficult.
Because that can be the killer for a lot of traffic management is potentially going to be your.
Yeah, and that is by far, that's my biggest cost.
Yeah.
Is going to be run light. I'm going to be asking for lots of volunteers, calling in lots of favours from different people. But the idea is to keep the cost low to make sure that I don't have huge overheads. Unfortunately, traffic management is just one of those things. I want to do it right. I never actually took part in the previous 10K road race, but from having seen it, I wouldn't have enjoyed running down the road with cars flying past at 100K. So yeah, I want to do this right. I want to make sure that it is safe and everyone is coming back going, yeah, it's a really good event. Not, yeah, it was a bit sketchy when cars were flying past me and I've got my kid next to me. And, yeah. So safety is, number one priority.
Of course. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Cool, thank you. Yes.
Welcome.
We actually got the band back together for this, minus one person. Before I start, I just mentioned, when I sought permission to speak, you have to put the subject matter down, and it's, just the progress of up to half mile, so just so people know. The amazing online survey of the tree removal advised participants to read the 15th of November 21 draft concept plan by Boffa Miskell first. That was also sent at the drop-in meeting shortly after. It was an amazing display. I know that of the many people who voted for tree removal, they mainly voted that way based on the redevelopment plans. By April 2023, the developed design was available for all to see. Subsequently, the board voted democratically to accept the plan, even opting for the more expensive option of 180,000 rather than the 170K. Even the council solicitor, Andrew Lovelock, informed our group, and I quote, "There is a restoration plan that has been consulted on and has now been adopted by the Vincent Community Board at its meeting on the 2nd of May 23. That plan now appears to have gone. The question is, who decided that? Surely if it was to be undone, then this board should have made that decision. Our understanding now, after talking with Rachel Baxter, is that there's just 3 areas to be planted inside very, very minimal rabbit-proof fencing, and then only very different plants to what this community board adopted. It's just amazing not to implement what our elected VCB adopted. As an aside, there's now more invasive weeds there than ever before the trees came down. Hemlock, briar, babaskin, lupin. 50 trees is still to come down, even though staging was turned down by the use of the Mayor's discretionary casting vote. Since the destruction of the trees, I wish to make mention of a tireless community worker who has almost single-handedly created and recreated paths and trails up to 5 hours a day for months, so that Joe Public can use this amazing reserve, in part, again, safely for all ages for walking and biking. Some of us couldn't wait and hold our horses as instructed by the chairperson. This has enabled another Christmas trail and recently the Anzac tributes. There's been huge and amazing feedback from these on social media. It was great to see that the Anzac tribute was not ordered removed by the parks manager, as was the case prior to Armistice Day 2022. Oh, do I need a page to? Oh my gosh. The Frisbee Golf is another amazing project in its infancy. We talked with Joe Knight, and it's going to be possible for walkers, dog walkers, bikers, dark sky Astros, all to be compatible. However, there's some concerning answers in the responses from the park manager to Joe. I suggest all the board members read those responses. For example, neighbour fencing, toilets, car parking signage. What is required post haste is a very even graded track construction. The manager of community experience informed me that they are banned. So come on board, let's get the wheels back. It would be so amazing. Ngā mihi nui.
Vincent. Anthony, does anybody have any questions? But
I would agree with you on the question of access. I think it's a key point for the use of that reserve. As looking into the future, it's got to be accessible, and at the moment it's a little bit of a struggle for people who are getting a bit elderly or infirm.
I think the only challenge with that would be the gradient of the track that you're required to have. And how much work that would be. Obviously, there's no point in replacing steps if you're replacing it with a very steep track that people can't actually push a buggy up or down.
I've surveyed personally, and some of us that are up there a lot of the time, a route that would get you from the corner or just below the corner or slightly above the corner up there. Even grade up, one zig and one zag, and it takes you to the much more less steep areas. It only needs to be 1.2 metres wide, can be easily done with a small digger. And my understanding is that local contractor is going to be used to clean up the area alongside State Highway 8 shortly. I don't know where that's got to. I mean, we've already paid for it to be cleaned up, but we're going to pay again to get it done. You know, it's a matter of using resources where they are, and I really want the board to do two things if possible, is revoke that non-use of wheeled stuff up there. It's just ridiculous. Why that ever, I mean, I ignore it and I bike there, and if someone wants to go cook, that's okay. There's lots and lots of mountain bike tracks, wheel marks up there, people are using them. But you're not, under the letter of the law, which David sent me in an email, you're not even allowed a wheelbarrow up there. You look at the Reserves Act, you'll see his definition, which he sent to me. I think you'd agree that you sent that to me, David, but I don't even know how to speak probably. So, two things. It's a recreation reserve, even though now it's become a wilderness area. You know, and there's $180,000 put aside for this place. And if you can't cut a track up there of a reasonable grade, then seriously, folks, we all need to look at ourselves pretty hard.
Thank you. Did you want to give an update on any of those communications? All the people that'll be watching tonight.
Yeah.
No, you might not have said it.
So what you mentioned about State Highway 8, that's happening on Thursday by a local contractor, you're correct, obviously weather dependent. It's important to note. And I think, you know, when it comes to planting and everything, it's great that you're talking to Rachel, and I understand you're talking with Tony as well around the different staging and things that's happening. And, you know, the parks manager and I would love to catch up with you guys if you'd like to.
Well, we're always about, and we're everywhere, and
We can't find her, she'll be up in that bloody hill.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Will.
I mean, it was mentioned by Tracy just before about traffic management's a real killer financially on anything and everything we do. I think the council would have found that out when they felled the trees, because there was some few mismatching things went on there in terms of traffic, and there's some huge costs. But if you've got a tradie type background or you whatever, and you're ancient like I am, you can see resources in an area that you need to grab hold of and use. And, you know, to be fair to when the logging contractor was here, it would have been an ideal time. But in the end, they were so rushed to get out of the place, they destroyed all the native plantings and rabbit cages, just like vandalism. But they could have been approached to cut a track. And, you know, it's the bottom part is steep, but I think everyone needs to take on board that whatever activity, say for instance the frisbee golf, it's imperative that people aren't pushed to the top end to cross that road and park there and start there, because It's, I had a report from an engineer from Fulton Hogan way back. And you can't get permission to get a car park in there in the first place.
No, and I don't think that
No, I'm
anybody
not
thinks that
suggesting.
there will be a park that's not a safe
What I'm
place.
saying is, people go where it's easier. So let's make the area the easiest access. And, you know, if there's frisbee golf, why should a young lady, say with a toddler in a mountain buggy, be excluded? Because there's two accesses there. There's the steep bit, which I can now handle again because I'm feeling better. There's also an area further up where some of the trails started from, that are very close to the log house. And I don't know if you have any contact with the guy from the log house. He's totally opposed to people being near him. And I understand that, but when you talk about boundary fencing up there, part of the boundary fence just about clips the garage on that house. And a lot of the concrete slab, some of the concrete slab and some of the bank there, it's actually in the reserve, which for some historical reason it's like that. I think I know the answer as to why that's like that. So some of those wee things going ahead, planting, etc. But all those things, frisbee golf, I think there needs to be more of a concerted effort about hooking the community back into it. You know, and we're all passionate about up there. We've always have been.
Yeah,
Trees were destroyed.
and we appreciate you coming down here and Christine and Neville, and I just reiterate the things that you want for the reserve and the things that this board wants for the reserve are not two different things. We want a beautiful place where people can go and enjoy the trails and enjoy frisbee golf, if that's what goes in there, and enjoy the spaces to walk and view the night sky. We're not worlds apart.
No.
And we are making steps in that
I get
direction,
that.
so thank you for coming in and speaking to us.
But can anyone tell me why bikes were banned? Please don't poke up lizards, but why are bikes banned from a recreation reserve?
Well, through the chair, thank you. The email conversation we had, Ken, was I replied with the exact extract out of the reserve act.
Yeah.
So just,
Legislation.
yeah, that's how that operates. And so for us, I think we need to have a conversation and we come back to this board. And we understand the delegations that we have through the minister, and we get a approval from this board to be able to have wheels and bikes officially up there. Obviously, you know, people are up there on bikes, but according to the legislation, which was what you've asked, that's what it says in the Reserves Act.
So are bikes banned at present?
What's the actual wording? There's actual wording in
They use the
there.
word any contraption that has wheels, even if the wheels have been
Contrivance.
removed, etc. It says contrived control contraption.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's just out of the Reserves Act, and that's
Yeah,
what I said.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, but the question is, right now, today, when I leave here tomorrow, when I go there again, are bikes, from this council's perspective, this group's perspective, banned from that reserve?
According to the legislation, that's how it reads.
So
Yeah.
is that a yes?
That's according to the legislation, that's how it reads. Yeah.
Well, that's not really our decision, that's the.
That would have to come back to the board if you were looking for something that was against legislation. We have to follow what the legislation is currently, so that's not a council decision, that is in law.
But the legislation doesn't ban bikes. It
Well,
just
bans
means,
a contrivance with wheels.
Yeah.
so, okay, so, yeah,
I'd
okay.
actually like to raise that with the Minister of
Yeah.
Conservation.
No, not really. I just,
We'll keep you posted. You'll be able to see hopefully something happening on Thursday,
Yeah.
and we'd
Okay.
like to keep in touch with
I
you
don't want
and
to keep on this, but
continue working in the same direction.
debating, so Boot Hill, where does that sit?
That doesn't sit here in the public forum at this stage. Sorry, Ken, we need to get on with the meeting. Thank you.
We'll catch up then.
Right, moving on to page 7 on your agenda for a confirmation of the minutes of our last meeting. It's on the 2nd of April. If somebody is happy to move, thank you, Di and Roger, I'll just wait for Sarah to start. Off that to you, Sue. No, it's. Let's move dice because Roger, thank you. Declarations of interest. Just a reminder to regularly update your declarations and let Sarah know if anything has changed. Moving on to the Alexandra Blossom Festival Grant Account Policy, which you'll find on page 18 of your agenda. Welcome.
Morning. So there's very little I can say really. You've got the end of year financials, the drafts, which Tim has just confirmed have now been signed off from Blossom Festival, which is particularly closing the loop with regards to the requirement under the grant access grants policy as far as providing you with a report back. Obviously, it was a tight year for them.
Yes.
Only comment.
Not a substantial amount of splashing.
I think it's a tight year for a lot of, you're not alone.
No.
Did anybody have any questions on the report back? First of all. Any more things? In that case, can I move that that report be received? You, Tracy, seconded Roger, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Yeah, promotions, grant applications. If we move across to the other item within your. Yeah. How would you like to do this? Do you want to just go through them one at a time?
Would you like me just to do a quick
Overview?
oversee, and then Sarah, you've got a spreadsheet, haven't you? Which gives a running total, which should be quite useful, and I'll let Ansta give you a little bit of information as well, which could be relevant. So the key things to remember is zero funding remaining in the current financial year, so there's no grant funding remaining there that can be allocated. All these projects that you're considering today are projects that will happen in the 24-25 financial year. So therefore we're looking at the budget, the draft budget for that, which currently is sitting at 50,000. Now that is an increase, and any grants approved today would be subject to the final adoption of the annual plan, and also that the grant funding, that grant line budget remained the same. We've got 7 applications there, totaling 76,308, just a little bit more than your 50,000 that you've got budgeted. Hopefully, the assessments have been helpful for you. We've got those sitting with each of the applications, and I've made, looking across the suite, trying to keep within budget, giving you some recommended figures there. Most likely that if we fund as recommended, that you'll fully allocate your 24-25 year funding. That will mean that we would not be accepting applications in the first round for the financial year, and we'd look again at accepting applications again in the second round, and probably getting to a similar sample. What we've done this year is look at how each application lines up with the destination management plans and the research that was done in behind that, and basically it's pretty broad. The community's told us that they want a Central Otago to be a place that invests in and hosts a broad mix of festivals and events, sports, community, arts, culture and business. So you've got something pretty much in all of those areas in your applications there. It also references connecting with distinctive environments and our way of life, and looks at smoothing seasonal peaks and troughs for visitation. So that's one of the things that we looked at as far as timing of events. When we have a finalised event strategy, I would also look to incorporate that into our assessment process. That's getting very close. You've got 2 new events looking for funding. So that's Dead Sweat's Gold Rush event and the Clyde Classic. Both of those are in the early stages of organisation, and if they could get themselves to where they want to be, it's highly likely that they could become very strong anchor events on the calendar. The Clyde Classic, at the time of making their application, they had not formalised their structure, and any grant approved to them would be a requirement of them to formalise their structure. There has been a late change from Alexandra Music Society. They came through over the weekend to advise that they won't be producing Saturday Night Fever as their show anymore. They have yet to lock in what that show will be. I'd leave it to you to make the decision on whether you're comfortable to consider that application as it currently stands without knowing what the show will be. I'm going to ask Ants to just give you a little bit of an overview on what the Ministry of Business Innovation and forgot the E. Their new funding opportunity for grant promotion.
Yeah, so last month the Ministry of Tourism announced a national fund for the promotion of regional events. It's open for events to apply through the regional tourism organisations or councils if they're in an area that doesn't have a regional tourism organisation. And it allows, it's a $5 million fund spread over 2 years to focus solely on the promotion of events. Events can apply and it's co-funding. So it's to enhance the existing promotion. So if an event had a existing marketing budget of $5,000, they can apply for an additional $5,000 to enhance the marketing with the goal of increasing visitation and therefore the economic impact or return for the regions. The other part there is it excluded the key gateways within the country. So Auckland, Hamilton, Wellington, Christchurch and Queenstown were deemed to be outside of qualifying for the fund. So that's in some ways advantageous for our event organisers in terms of they're not competing again with some of the neighbouring events, but obviously those events will still occur in terms of event clashes, as has been already talked about. We have, as TCO, held a drop-in session here in Chambers which was attended by about 9 different events. Some of those events that are interested in the fund are ones you're considering today, and also others from across the district. The key piece for this being that it's only to enhance their existing budget. To do some more is they need to actually be able to stand up to start with, and then how do they gain more? So if you've got any questions on that, I think it's a hard one in terms of does it replace any of the potential funding? And I would say it doesn't, based on the criteria be set for us to put forward those applications. But at the moment, we've had indications or draft submissions come through from Spirited Woman, Gold Rush, and an indication that would likely get an application from Wollon and the Clyde Classic to that fund, or the one event you're considering.
So if we were to grant some money that was allocated towards marketing, they would
could potentially get a matched.
So it's match funded.
Yeah, so they have to have it in their budget, and it's only specifically for that purpose of the pre-promotional aspects of marketing in all its forms.
And there are a couple of new events on the proposed calendar, which I guess is really exciting for the region. I just wondered if they align with the DMP with spreading the events out, and I just wondered if with your expert knowledge of what our events calendar looks like for the year, if you think that bringing new events in those sort of areas that time of year is going to be a great fit for us.
So looking at it, so we have those discussions, and that's a consideration that can be put in there is around do the events align with the goals of the region's destination management plans. So it's looking at that where there's ability to move events, and this is just something we want to have discussions with event organisers anyway. Don't just put events when you think people are going to turn up anyway, because that's not necessarily an added benefit to the region. It's kind of like, if you can move a week or move a month, is that going to have a wider benefit and actually make it easier for you to run your event as well? Most of these events here, I think, you've got that kind of peak summer season. We haven't got any major clashes, or if there are clashes, the organisers have, to my knowledge, have discussions. The one there that I think has got a potential clash, but the discussion has occurred, is between the Gold Rush and the Northburn 100. So the Northburn event is normally on that same weekend that the Gold Rush is proposed. But a pure running event versus the multi-sport event, there is a similar audience, but also quite different in terms of single shoot versus multiple. We'd love to see more events kind of moving into our traditional shoulders, but weather conditions and things like that are considerations that need to take into account: length of day, temperature of water bodies, access to land, because of other considerations. So a lot of these events do require to be in a fixed period, and there's not much that can be done about it.
Just one other thing I'd just point out is that under your grants policy and financial requirements, we prefer that the applicants have the ability to become self-sustaining and have a plan to deliver that. Some of these events are particularly strong in that, and I think there's probably one or two that are maybe not.
Just correct, or tell me, with this first round, with the second round of grants that wouldn't actually, if this was to go ahead in this form, the second round of grants wouldn't happen, because there would be no money left for the.
So what we would do is we would accept, so for the first funding round, so applications are open now, closed in July, for decision September, we wouldn't accept applications in that round. We would accept applications in the next round, but we'll be in the situation, but only for projects in the following financial year.
So essentially by doing this, there would only be one funding round per year. Now, does that unfairly disadvantage or the people that perhaps have traditionally applied in a different funding round, and that may have put their application forward had they known that there was only going to be one? Because essentially that's what we're saying. We'll go from 2 to 1.
Yeah, and it's a very valid point. It's a scenario that we haven't struck before, is that we've had quite this many applications in this funding round. And it is a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. And I think the St Bacchus Fete is a classic. They missed a funding round last year, and there was no funding left available to them. So that funding had gone in the first round, in that sort of July, September round. But some of these events actually happen in that early first quarter. So they have to apply to this round to get the funding.
So, I mean, I guess that's something that I'm just thinking,
That's a challenge, I think, for us going forward, is that we're now giving out grants of money that has not been confirmed yet through the annual plan or long-term plan process, which will be a bigger challenge next year as we go into the long-term plan, because it'll be very much up in the air. But then I also recognise that running an event of this scale requires you to have funding plans in place a significant time frame ahead of when you need them. So do we need to reassess when our funding rounds are to give people that certainty? We seem to have got stuck last year, and you highlighted the St Bacchus Fete, whereby people leave it till a month out and it's too late because all the money is gone, or they're then looking at asking for retrospective funding, which we don't do. Do our funding rounds not align with the need, or?
I think it's a challenge. If you look at those events on the calendar, there's Blossom Festival, Music Society, Will On, Clyde Classic. Those 4 events would not need to fund the first funding round. So having a decision in that September-October period would be far too late. And that's what we found with the Musical Society last year as well. So I think there is a challenge with any timing. Dylan's obviously got
Yeah, I just joined the table for that part of the conversation. We've never landed on a perfect time, essentially is the answer. We've tweaked and played with this over a number of different years. In fact, ever since I've been in council, we've always looked at different ways this might work. There is no perfect way, and it comes back down to the point you just made before, Taylor, about some of these events are big and they need that certainty of funding well in advance to help them secure other funding and get things booked and locked down. Others aren't that big and can actually work in a much smaller window, but whichever way we do, it'll impact one or it won't impact on the other. There's no perfect system. So this is what we've landed on. It's been in place now for a couple of years this way, hasn't it, since the last LTP? It seems to be the best way we can manage this.
Does it need to have some work done on the process prior to the next LTP, recognising that this time next year, we may well be in a very different position with uncertainty around funding? Is that something that can be looked at between now and then as to what's going to be the best fit for next year?
Yes, so our grants policy and process, it's under review leading into the LTP.
Yeah.
So are we going to have any very disgruntled community groups that feel that they thought they would apply in the second round? Come to us and say, sorry, the first round. Sorry, the first round. Second round, whichever round we're not doing.
Quite.
Quite possibly. I mean, I think regulars that I can think of would be the AMP show, maybe Winter Stella, although they're probably at the end of their sort of seeding period. I don't think we would see back Prospector, because they, again, that was an event that looked to have seeding funding to keep going. That would be about the only ones that I think of just off the top of my head.
And other possibly new events that we don't yet know about, right?
Do we need to stop calling this the second, what round again? Do we need to start calling this the first round?
This is the second round
But it's not
for the current year, but we're giving out money for
the next year, so theoretically it's the first round, 23, 24, and maybe we need to change it.
And just say we've got one funding round each year.
Yeah, to be fair, we're not going to get that. How do people?
That's what's coming at the LTP.
Yeah.
That's what John was just saying.
Correct.
That we have the ability to sort that out then.
Yeah.
On that, do you want to talk through each application? The first one to come up is the Alexander Blossom Festival. And one thing that I guess is a consideration going forward is this has been supported for a long time by council. And other events we have said they need to be working towards sustainability. I don't want to just surprise this on the festival committee, and I think that's something that could be talked through with them of what that would look like over a 3 to 5 year period. But I just wondered, Tony, as the person who sits on that committee as an appointed member, whether you have a
Yeah, well, look, I think it expands on your point about saying the new ones we get looking to be sustainable in 3 years for the gold rush. And we've got 70% of our money is going out to long-standing events, and I'm kind of thinking we need to start weaning them off. And I think that's robust enough. The Blossom Festival is robust enough to handle that.
I kind of have a little bit of a different opinion in relation to the Blossom Festival. It is it is so iconic to this region. How many years have I been here? 25 years or something like that. And it's the one thing that I knew about before I even knew anything about Alexandra. And, I guess it's what I agree with. We want to make sure that it is self-sustaining, but it's a really, really, really significant thing for this region. It's so significant. It's here to stay, and we need it to stay. I don't know.
I guess I take comfort in the fact that a total loss for an unforeseen event for them would be about $100,000, and that they have reserves that could carry that for now. Obviously not carry multiple years, but I certainly think that is worth a conversation between the board and the Blossom Festival as to what that looks like going forward for funding in the next into the future.
Like we say, I probably agree with that, because at the end of the day, if we're asking all these other groups to become self-sufficient, we're currently giving almost half of the funding to one organisation that's survived 65 years. At some point, they've got to start looking at that and looking at the future.
I think we have been delivering that message to them for a number of years now. And they've been pretty consistent with coming back in at the same level. So, you know, it was part of the, when I looked back at our assessment for last year, it was part of our assessment last year as well.
Yeah, so I guess staff have been saying that, but it would be great if the board could.
I think it's an indication from the board
Yeah.
that a conversation should be held.
And there's two factors. They've got quite a resilient balance sheet.
Yeah.
But as you say, that's probably one wonder almost, because they have spent here, but they're also investing a little bit back in that you would say is discretionary to some degree. They'll put the squeeze on people outside the organisation if they cut that, but they've got a little bit of resilience on their viability.
They do, and I'm pleased to see that they are investing that very small profit to maintain that sustainability. So I would, like Tracy says, it's an iconic event, but I think that it's time to have a conversation with the board and the board of the Festival Committee.
Sorry, Tracy, I was just writing a footnote to Ali there. Just off the top of our head, we had the A&P show Otago Cricket, which will likely come back again. And there's also the MX New Zealand will be running the South Island Championships, and now it's under January. So they may also be.
Which is huge, which could be quite huge.
That's down to 6 competitive fields. So there will likely be.
I think there's a chance that Gold Nationals might come back. One was here last year as well. They talked about returning.
The place are there, why wouldn't they not?
Clearly.
Right, and would we leave that amount, are people comfortable leaving the 20,000 if they requested 24,500 at this point? We can go through and tweak it.
That was the request, the recommendations definitely.
Yeah, the recommendation is the 20,000.
If I may, Jeff, would you go back to them and say, look, every year from here on in, we're going to shave $5,000 off? And so you've got all 4 years to be sustainable and get yourself up to, I mean, if they have such healthy reserves, maybe you need a bit of tough one.
I think this signal that we are sending now is that is probably the direction that this board wants to take. They will be out at this current point, the amount recommended is less than they have requested. Given the longevity of the grant that this board has given, I think it is prudent to have a conversation with them again, heading that direction as opposed to it just coming in a letter of yes, every year from here on out. But I think that's something that I think that would be important for the board to discuss with them directly.
Yeah.
But I don't see any harm in signaling that that's likely the direction. People happy with that? Dead Sweat Spirited Woman event. I guess it was helpful to hear from Neville that if he had to choose one, he would choose the other one, given that Spirited Woman is a well-established event returning to this area for a third time, which is great. It is an excellent event. Have people, is anybody thinking that they want to change that recommended amount, which is currently no?
Yeah, well, I guess when my first look at it was I thought it's certainly worth giving it a nudge, but then when I hear there's an opportunity for them to source something elsewhere, which is, but maybe, probably, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, so nothing's guaranteed. So we get to put forward events to MB, but decisions MBs on any of that potential co-funding. They can leverage existing spend in it, so they can say, you know, our marketing budget for the event was X, and they may have already spent X. Hence the request coming to you. So they do have that opportunity for that, and they are one of the ones who have already sent through about that.
Yeah. I'm kind of conscious, my memory tells me how well Shane Jones's Regional Development Fund got spread down south, and I'd be nervous that the same tune might happen.
So it is I think they'll be trying to go, they've set a maximum per region, per funding round, so there's 2 years of this fund, of 237,500, I think, and that is available. So some regions may have one significant event that will use up all of that money. I think we're looking at probably having several smaller figures going in there, which I think is a very positive.
Will we include Queenstown? Will we be included in the Queenstown lot?
No, so
Oh, the
Queenstown is
Queenstown south, isn't it? That's right.
So it's specifically to our RTO boundary, which is our district boundary.
Yeah.
So it is just for our events, but it's not guaranteed you would be given it. So that MB will still make the assessment of the
Yeah.
event, and is that a wise investment by the government, and does it stack up in terms of the application and the return on the investment for the government? And they've been very clear in their terminology and their wording in terms of increased attendance, increased economic impact to the community. That's the kind of terminology we're getting out of the government currently. So,
Out of the Musical Society, Ellie, I just wondered, did you we had some scatterback of why they may have changed their
I know
musical
nothing.
number, but I wondered.
I know nothing. I had an email in from Pam Jones, who's currently residing in Kalgoorlie, so.
So not anywhere just on the ground to email.
So, and that's all I have is that they don't, that she's been advised by the secretary that they will not be producing that on Cleaver, and they have yet to decide when that show will be, but there will be a show, which there always is. The other factor, of course, is that that's funding within the same time period. You know, we're looking at lots of funding within the same event, same weekend.
Which seems to work quite well. Quite enjoyable going to the show on the weekend of Boston Festival.
It's a wee bit surprising, given probably the feedback from the footpath, if that's what their issue was, that they would know that before they started, because they've obviously conversed and got permission to run the show from the franchisee. And then all of a sudden they're surprised they probably can't staff it.
They had quite a strong male cast last year. Maybe they enjoyed it.
We get Roger in there next time.
Might be a problem with dancers, not singers. Saturday night fever, I don't know, I'm not involved in
You haven't
it.
put your hand up.
Hell no. I don't think there's a broken down old man role in that particular.
Maybe that's what they're gonna go back and look for.
Sorry, pictures of John Travolta.
John Revolter.
Right, I'm confident that a show will be put on. I guess it's easy enough to tag that to subject to a show going ahead that fits the criteria. Wollon,
I'm happy with the 5.
is everybody bought that 5,000?
Yeah.
Wollon, it was exciting to see that would be returning to Alexandra.
It's very cool.
Make it legible.
Lighting, sound and catwalk for a professional fashion show. Does anybody have any thoughts on that 8,500 recommended to support that?
And we did ask that we did say to them that it was quite a big thing for it to be shared around the district, so they've listened.
Yeah.
So I'm quite conscious that they have actually done what was some of the concerns. So they're good, and I did attend the show last year. And it was great. It was really good. And so
Cool.
I'm happy with that.
St Bethan's area, St Bethan's Fate for 2025. Jason, did you have anything that you wanted to add on that?
I would just say, they're a small group of really dedicated residents and holiday makers, and, don't have a lot of money. And every little bit will help them with what they're doing.
It's also the one event that's outside of the urban area.
Yes.
That's the point.
It has been going for a long time, but it is, like Jane said, it's completely voluntary. Everyone does it out of the goodness of their hearts. So
I can tell you, I get at least 2 emails a week from that committee. They are really working hard with what they do. And, you know, it's not just about this, it's what the other things they do in the community and keeping that heritage of that community going, whether it's the post office or just keeping it tidy. They're an amazingly group. I had half the energy that they've got.
Perfect. Are we happy, confident, happy with that amount of money? Clyde Classic. And the first new event on our schedule. Very enthusiastic new community member, which is great to see.
Yes. The only thing is that I would like to, depending on how the board feels about, with the, actually going ahead with this, is I think there needs to be it needs to be set up, and as in, we need to have a little bit more, I guess, security that it's actually going to happen, and I don't know whether our grants can be conditional on
In
that.
my draft resolution, which there is got there, it was, I had a subject to the appropriate entity being formed.
Yeah, I think that would be.
Would that be a similar condition to that biking charity? The,
Yes, that cycles.
yeah, that's like the community dance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, anybody got any questions or comments on that? On the Clyde Classic event?
I can't remember the last time that something, that they did the Clyde to Alexandra one. I can't remember. Di, can you remember that? Did you ever do that?
No.
I think
It was always a bit.
was always a
You'd
little.
see them, there was plenty of people.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Yeah.
quite a big event.
Yeah.
I safety conscious event, possibly.
Yeah.
It looked a bit terrifying every time I drove.
Well, the movement cost for that from Clyde to Alexandra must be huge, I imagine, yes. Oh, yeah. The scariest bit were when people were teeing off on hole number one at the golf course. It was just fraught.
And I'm hopeful that the communications between the organiser and the Clyde businesses that are substantially affected in recent years by road closures will be.
That's what I'm meaning about everything. I mean, it would be good to know that he has got all of those things, you know, actually in writing that they're happy for this event to take place and all that, rather than a chat over a coffee and you know.
That's a standard, element of having a grant is that they have to secure the appropriate permissions, consents, and legal requirements to run the event.
Can we put a clause in there then? Obviously, they would need traffic management if they were looking at any kind of road closure, partial or full, but is there the ability, given that it's not a legal requirement, for us to have a clause in there around communication with Clyde businesses that would be affected by road closure?
No.
Yeah, it's an engagement thing rather than a legal commitment.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about legal commitment, this is an
That
engagement.
October's not busy, but the bike operators have been pretty clear that October's still pumping on for them.
Well, it started up.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one though, isn't it? Because you either keep giving to established organisations or you take a punt on somebody and say they, you know.
I think it's a great idea to take a punt on it. I just recognise that community of Clyde will want to be engaged and be able to have a say and shape what that might look like for an event that's going to be in the centre of Clyde. Just going past.
If he's riding shotgun with the primary school, that will help engage the community.
We could add a resolution, add to the resolutions, the grant recipient's responsibility to obtain and or have in place the appropriate consents, plans and licenses, including resource consent, health and safety plans as required by legislation, agencies, property owners and or individuals to undertake the project.
Yeah.
Because it looks more legal access, we're talking about engagement.
But I think it can go beyond. You set the grant.
Yeah.
You are the board making the decision. You giving it on the basis of the engagement of the community, got authority to that community to do that. Then absolutely provide it into the resolution.
Yeah.
Part of the conditions.
Would like to see something that's.
That's the risk analysis at the start of the report.
The board requests that, would we want it to come back to us? What he has done in terms of engagement or
Back to,
back to the team?
I don't think we need to see it back here. We just need these guys to know that it's been confirmed that we're not going to have a whole lot of angry business owners sitting here,
Yeah.
like you say, saying, where was our engagement? You guys, come on. So we've flagged it. It's up to these guys now. It's an operational level.
I think we would have to have a resolution over it, to say.
Yeah.
That's clear.
Yeah.
The board requests.
It's probably an undertaking that he has engaged them, had feedback of minimal disruption or something like, I guess, those sorts of things, isn't it? Because he can say he's talked to them, but that doesn't mean.
Yeah.
He's had,
They might have doing what they all said no.
he's had a cup of coffee, said he had a today though.
Yeah,
And what's the proportion of, you know, you might get 12 businesses agree and one not. What's your expectation in that?
You're not going to get 100%.
I don't think we can set an expectation, but I think in terms of the social license to run an event within a town centre like that, I think there is an expectation on the applicant to make sure that he has that. The resolution goes there.
Good question.
Uh,
Because you want them to run staff, don't you? You want staff to run operationally, so.
I guess.
the board directs staff to be satisfied that appropriate undertaking by the applicant.
That appropriate engagement.
Appropriate engagement has been undertaken by the applicant with Clyde Central Business District.
Just
Owned.
I think, given that, we need to make sure that's consistent across. We've got other events here that are talking about utilising different parts of our township.
But,
Yes, there's been some pressure on that.
but not closing the road is my concern.
We don't know for the operation of some of these events,
Yeah,
that level of specifics.
Fair enough.
It's also probably an expectation of a first time event, that we're setting the expectation for the first time event, and once
Yeah.
you set the pattern up,
Yeah, and if you compare that to the fate in St Bethans, they've been going for a long time. They manage that. Everyone knows it's coming.
Yeah.
And so the business owners there, bearing in mind it really is only one, they know what's going to happen. So
They've got the consent of the community to do it.
yes,
He's just looking at the list there, the only one that possibly presents a problem could be Spirit of Women.
And
Yeah.
Gold Rush, I think as well. I think both of those would have, so potential same thing right on Clyde.
Yeah,
We want a J resolution which reflects what has referred to previously. Covers all of that.
Catch-all.
It is, each grant's recipients have got responsibility to obtain and have basically appropriate consent plans and licenses, including consent health and safety plans, as required by legislation, agencies, property owner and or individuals to undertake. Doesn't necessarily cover.
no, that's my own concern. That covers all the legal aspects of running an event, but doesn't cover a social license of running an event within a small town.
So it just needs and impacted community or business or.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. And could you put and engagement with impacted communities and businesses?
so that's where it's subjective.
Oh, that's a little bit, but there's, our staff and team are in those communities all the time. I think that businesses are going, what the hell, we don't want that anywhere near us. Answer to an alley, hear about it. And they will bring them and come back. It's true. I guess we are recognising that while there are huge opportunities and benefits to events like this coming to a town, there are also costs for our communities as well, and we want to make sure that privately run enterprises are cognizant of those impacts.
Yeah, I guess given it's not your first rodeo, you've got an idea of what we're looking for. Do we have to be more specific than that? Or you know what?
Well, I think that's the main thing is managing the impact of events and tourism and visitation is, that's why we have a destination management plan.
Yeah.
So that is the premise of the work we're doing. So There we go.
Okay. Oh,
Maybe take out all.
affected communities.
Yeah.
Good idea, Dan. And then the last one that we haven't covered off yet on is the Gold Rush event. So Clyde Classic, are people confident that if he meets the criteria for establishing an entity or whatever it's going to be to run the event, that would like to contribute to the startup cost? Gold Rush. Central Otago's iconic multi-sport event.
One thing I probably should note with this is, and you would have seen in their application that they were looking for multi-year confirmation of funding. We've made it very clear that we can only consider the single year.
Yeah.
But you will see this application come back to you in subsequent years, I would suspect for at least the next year.
And it did have an undertaking on the application, I think, that it was going to be less, working towards.
Yeah, and it was a rejected scale.
Yeah.
Although they did ask for 20,000 in the new one.
Yes.
Alex started producing already.
Yeah. We're ahead of the game. Thoughts, comments on?
This used to be massive. It used to be huge. If you can get halfway back to that, it'd be fantastic for the region. But for all sorts of demographics, kids, high school kids, as well as.
I think, and I don't disagree with you, and I don't want to be like negative Nancy here, but I am really conscious that there is a group of applicants up there that are not for profit, and essentially that is a for profit. You know, it's not a completely not for profit situation.
Yeah.
And it's not that I actually think, I agree with you, the Gold Rush was an exceptional part of what went on in Alex back in the day, but there is a profit element to it. There is some of these other events, and I don't know whether that's something that we have to address when we get to the grants policy down the track, and I might be jumping the gun, but and how we feel about that around this table, but then to think about what Mayor Tim said, you know, do you want to give these things a chance to come back when we've been supporting other ones? It's really hard, actually.
I think that's a good comment, Tracy, and I think we highlight that idea that Spirited Woman isn't getting anything. You said you were asking us once for money and we gave you some money and that you wouldn't ask again. That's the idea of especially a for-profit business, is within a relatively short time frame, you're going to be self-sustaining, but recognising the wider district benefits, so bringing in people to the area.
The Gold Rush has got potential.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, I know. And I'm just saying that, I mean, I also think about well, like I said earlier, I think about the people or the groups that are going to come and be told that they're going to have, I'm sorry, but the money's out. Oh, we didn't know that it was going to be any different from when we put in our application. So unfortunately, our pool of cash is limited. And
what are your thoughts, Don? You bring lots of people to the area, but
Well, when he talked, obviously, he's hoping to make a profit in 2, 3, 4 years, so to get things going, I'm all for it. But in any one that runs an event that is a profit thing, then I don't think we should support that. It should be self-sustained.
So you're right, Tracy. So this will be part of the conversation around the review as we go into the LPP. It's a real conundrum because what we're seeking is people who can create and develop professional level events that will become long-term self-funding, self-sustaining. That often is not a small community group of volunteers doing it. It is a professional event organisation ultimately is seeking to make a profit. And we have this conundrum often when we bring events to the table because some are run by community and some are run by professional event organisers. And it'll be part of the review. How you wish to go with this is up to you.
Yeah.
And the opposite, I guess, to that is that we could give something a haircut here and expectation we're going to get something in round two, but we might not.
Or round one.
The next round, yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can only deal with what's on the table.
I don't find to say that on this one. Just think, there's a lot of other groups out there that support the community in their own way, and I just think, I don't know, I'm still thinking in my head. At this stage, I'd be inclined to say no to a profitable organisation.
Really good.
Given our current financial situation, there's only 10 grand left in the spot. If the pot was bigger, different story, multiple waste applications. Others think.
Yeah, that's the dilemma of what might come,
Yeah.
Not just relevant to the Gold Rush, but I think to a bunch of these other events. And they all generally will have some form of give back through the community for running them, whether they're run by a community group or professional group, in terms of where they're utilising volunteers and making donations to volunteer organisations through operating their events. So there is that kind of profit-driven piece, but I think we're looking at events here that have potential to, or are already aiming and have shown through experience to develop themselves into models that are self-sustained. At the same time, you're having discussions around events that you want to encourage to move that way. So I think you've got to look, there is opportunity there to look at. Like, if you look into some of these things, I think a lot of these things will be telling you in their reports how they contribute back to other parts of the community through just the operating model from as well.
So, Ants, do you think that the new and revitalised Gold Rush is there, because I'm not and you're probably much more in a multi-sport, maybe you do. I'm not thinking of any other multi-sports at the table, sorry, but is that something that, like, is that it's obviously a market, but is it a growing market?
I think there is an opportunity in that market. So we've seen the God Zone event nationally disappear. They got to, they were an event that moved around the country. They got to a scale that operationally they had a lot of challenges and costs because they were always moving, always doing something new and setting up.
Yeah.
The benefit of an event like Gold Rush is it can't go anywhere else. It's true to place, like it's telling the story of our heritage. It's celebrating our landscapes and bringing people in. So I think when you look at that, it's an investment in an event that can't go somewhere else. If they've got the right model, if you have faith in that it might go in the right direction, I think that is a piece. You can look at some of the other events where they're bringing things in, or where they may have, they could just move themselves to somewhere else. But I think things that are, and that's where we're wanting to support, is those kind of anchor events that are true to our place and stay fully Central Otago, then we will get long-term benefits out of it. And I think the idea of bringing back the Gold Rush, when I first moved to Central Otago, that was, as Neil talked to you earlier, at that level of the coast to coast in terms of participation. Coast to coast since then skyrocket, and participation numbers. It plateaued for a little bit, and it's been peaking back up into sellout potential. So there's a market there, and again, when we look at timing those events so that those athletes who compete at those kind of levels are at peak fitness for a period of time. And
Is that line in coast to coast?
Coast to coast is start of February. So coast to coast is second weekend of February. So there's a 6-week gap, which if you're a top athlete, you'd be likely to be peaking again after one to another. Not saying that you're necessarily targeting the top athletes, but that's a small field of participants. You're wanting to get those who are really coming to enjoy the courses, and the mass participation field is where the return is for us.
I do like the idea of the sharing and the sharing of knowledge between Neil with that level of experience in a big organisation, and I'm starting out organising this first event was quite good.
Sorry, I was just gonna add, so just specific to that event, from what we understand in the application, it's not profitable yet, because it obviously hasn't happened, it's not proposing to make a profit, so I suppose that's a slight difference. The other thing in there is this one very nicely fits the criteria of the MB money, or the MB fund. So essentially, if you're putting $10,000 into it, we'd likely be able to secure another $10,000. So you mentioned that money as well.
That's not even the entire marketing budget. So they're looking at a significant application to embed to, start off with the bang and make that impact to give it that longevity. So this is a contribution. This could be a contribution towards giving them the confidence to hit the go button. I think between your conversation around the table and the MB, that's going to be what gives the suite of events the confidence to go on.
I'm strongly in support of this application. I think it would bring in a lot of people into the community who'll be spending money here. It will get our area more established on the map in terms of these multi-sport type events, and I think it will be great for the district. It doesn't put us under any obligation to keep funding it in future years, but getting it going as a means of getting it established and on the map, I think would be a great investment.
I think that comment that you said before was that we talked about anchor events, and I said earlier that Blossom Festival was an anchor event, and it brings people into the region, religiously every time. So when you think about it like that, the possibility is, and it was exceptional in that, it was a lot of people that used to do it.
Yeah. Do we want to put up the resolutions there?
Just going.
Yeah. It's not holding me at all.
Do you want to just have a small bit under the resolution B for the Blossom Festival, noting that the community will engage with the Alexandra Blossom Festival Committee around sustainability, self-sustainability into the future.
If you just put sustainability, I just think it's about best.
Yeah.
Self-sustainable.
It's referred
Self-sustainable.
to as self-sustaining.
Yeah. Okay, self-sustaining.
Financially self-sustaining.
Perfect.
Around
Did you get that?
self-sustaining.
Around financially self-sustaining.
Yeah.
Baby. People with that? And maybe I'll liaise with you, Tony, about one. With that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just a title.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Good eyesight.
Pressure typing.
Get them something at PLR indeed.
And just through the chair, Dylan did just raise what would happen if one of these new events couldn't proceed. The grants policy covers that off. If the project doesn't go ahead, they can't apply for the grant.
Great. Does somebody want to move those? Thank you, Roger. And seconded. Thank you, Jaden. All those in favour?
Yeah,
Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. We'll
See you in a year.
And we'll see where we get to when that comes to grants policy reviewing.
It's going to be a reasonably robust discussion.
Get through an annual plan first.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Mayor,
Thank you,
the floor is yours.
Madam Chair. Look, not a huge amount of report. Obviously very busy with annual plan and stuff surrounding that. Of course, we've got the drop-in session here sometime soon in the diary. Monday. Cool. And also just progressing work on the Inland Otago Hospital and a couple of meetings in relation to the future of Falls Dam. But things that I have enjoyed immensely. I spoke at U3A organised by Roger, and following hard acts to follow on the heels of CEO Peter and Chair Tamer, and the bugger of it was that I tested positive for COVID the afternoon prior to this. But a call to Roger and some three blokes with Andrew Howley trying to make it all work the next day. We managed to do it by teams, and Roger ran around with the microphone, and it was great. I would have much preferred to have been there, but we still got on with it. So I think U3A is just a magnificent group in the community. So well done, Roger, for the work in that. I also attended a function for the Even More Central Otago collection of Central Stories, a marvellous event celebrating the tonga that it is. The event was in part due to the presence of Derek Henderson, who's a world-renowned photographer who'd been in the district photographing the entirety of the collection for a forthcoming book, which I personally can't wait to see. I think it's an absolutely magnificent thing. But yeah, really, annual plan has dominated life to a disturbing degree and will continue to do so. So that's my report, folks, and very brief on this one, which you're probably grateful.
Thank you very much. Happy to move that we receive that report, and Jaden, you happy to second that? Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And a report from me. And it feels like we were here not that long ago. It's because we were at the start of this month. I attended the BLAST graduation, which stands for Blue Light Adventure Skills and Training. Sometimes it stands for other things, depending on which police officer you're talking to. But they graduated nearly 20 kids at Vincent High School, which was awesome. It is so cool seeing these kids that get out of bed 3 mornings a week. They have to be there at 6 a.m. And it was really neat this time around to see. So they had 2 soldiers helping the police and the youth trust to run it. They had participated in their own blast some 6 years ago. And these kids came through blast at Dunstan High School, and now are both Nathan and they are territorials within Central Otago, which was really cool to see. Tracy and I attended some speed limit hearings, and it was great to have Clyde Primary School come along and talk to us about the speed limits around their school. They are always supremely engaged to the kids from that school, especially when it comes to cars and safety. So it was great to have them here. I attended probably the most informative hour I have spent this year on managing wastewater treatment in our area. It was fascinating, loved it, learned so much more than I ever thought I would learn about managing wastewater. So if anybody wants to receive my notes, I took about 5 pages of notes. Really interesting. I went along as well to the Eden Hoare event at Central Stories. They have a couple of frocks on display. I had my eyes on the nice green sparkly one, which I don't think is my size, but was very lovely. It was great to have Derek there along with some of the other patrons. And then we called up with him the following day, 2 days later, Oliver's having a cup of tea. It was lovely to see him. He's a very nice man. And I'm also, like Nita, excited about what that book is going to look like, because there are so many frocks that you just couldn't even comprehend that sort of thing was coming out of the tractor shed in Naseby. It's very cool. Anzac Day services attended the Clyde dawn service with one of our small people, which was amazing. Tim was there as well.
Yeah, that's my.
He was the guest speaker. And then I went to the Alexandra session and was privileged to lay the wreath along with Peter, who was the guest speaker there. And I really am heartened by the enthusiasm from younger generations to attend these celebrations. I think it is really important that we remember that once upon a time, mothers and wives and dads were sending their children off to war. And I can't imagine what it would be like if that were to happen again, even though things are a bit chaotic in the world right now. And then yesterday, it was yesterday, wasn't it? Popped up to Cromwell to farewell the Memorial Hall, which was freezing cold. It was very cocky, but it was a great turnout. Loads of people came, not just from council and council team members. There are a lot of members of the public there too. It's very hardy older people, and then we had a nice cup of tea afterwards. It's been quite a busy month, really. And I'll just highlight that on Friday, Tracy and I will be holding the first ever TNT Hour of Power, working title, at Clyde, after Tracy had heard from some Clyde residents that they might like to see a bit more of us. We will be at Oliver's from 10 AM. David has very kindly offered us a table there. If anybody wants, if anybody would like to come and have a cup of tea or a coffee with us, and any questions, comments, concerns, fantastic ideas, we would love to have a good turnout.
Absolutely.
Cool, thank you. I'll move that and I report the review. Thank you, Tracy, and all those in favour.
Yep.
Carried. Jaden. Roger. You're looking at Roger, would you like Roger?
Oh, yeah, once you can start, we can.
Go on then, Roger.
Right. As you've said, this was a short month between since the last meeting. I attended a meeting of members of our Management Recreation Reserve Committee, as two council staff, David and Gordon, I think, to discuss the future of the committee. We have representation, the BCB has representation on the Lower Manawatu Recreation Reserve Committee. The question is that committee still relevant? So it looks likely that will be removed from the delegations for this board at some future date. Attended a meeting of the Creative Writers Circle, attended a youth creative session addressed by Mayor Tim. Very sadly had to be via Teams, but thanks again to Tim for with COVID of still going ahead with that talk. Much appreciated and a very appreciative audience. I performed with the Central Otago Regional Orchestra in Alexandria and in Queenstown. Alexandria was at the Political Memorial Theatre, renovated, etc. And so it was great to get that first time the orchestra has been performed in Alexandria now for several years. So great to be back and in front of a local audience. Attended a meeting of Dunstan Friendship Club, attended a meeting of the Central Otago Free Board, attended the AGM of KACB, and David was the guest speaker at that KACB, that's going to keep Alexandria Pride beautiful. And then as an aside, I hosted two visitors from Australia, from Sydney, and they were here for a week, and while they're here, they had two swims in the Nolanu pool, and they were effusive in their appreciation of that facility. They said it was at the level of the very best pools in Sydney, but without the crowds. So they were absolutely delighted with the experience of going for a swim in our Nolanu pool. So it was great to hear that. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not too much for me. Just keeping in touch with my Balance Cottage Committee and Bex. Attended the Anzac Parade, and I also helped and attended the local Alexandria 7-a-side rugby tournament, which if you haven't been up to one of these, then you should all go, because the whole of Molyneux Park is covered in about 550 kids from 5 years old, and it's great, especially the rippers, the 5-year-old is just hilarious, so it's just a great event, so the partner, that's, yeah.
Thanks, John.
Boston Festival AGM, a couple of weeks ago, we're obviously went through the draft report, the reports. The dawn service up at, overlooking the dam was, I was blown away, literally, and figuratively.
Yeah.
I thought it was good, I thought it was good turnout, good weather, and obviously a lot of people from around. That's a wreath laying in the morning. There was a guy from Christchurch, who's buried uncles and fathers and all sorts of areas. So people are coming from far and wide to front up to our Anzac services, which was a pretty good story. So we chewed me off for about 10 minutes. Good.
Thanks, Tony.
Like our esteemed chairwoman over there, I also watched an hour of wastewater treatment. It was fascinating, so I agree with you. Also, with Taylor, did this even the hearings. And I attended a course in Auckland it's called Making Good Decisions. Martin is a commissioner for Resource Management Act, and that's my training that I'm doing at the moment. So I'm just about to be finished, hopefully within the next week and a half. So that was great. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. I attended a co-link meeting, and I visited Central Stories and was really fascinated about the Bannockburn exhibition. So if you get a chance, it's actually all the people from Bannockburn, well, not all, but a significant amount of people from Bannockburn, and they just saying what they do, and it was really interesting. People that I knew, people that I didn't, and I thought that was really, it was just a picture and a bit of words, so that was well worth going to have a look. And I also attended the Anzac service in Omakau. It was a beautiful morning, a little chilly, but it was a beautiful blue sky because we have it at a respectful hour of 10 a.m. But we did have, actually there was the speaker, he was amazing, but there was also a couple of servicemen from Australia that were there. So, like you say, it was really, it's a really special part.
Did you have a mounted brigade as well?
We couldn't because it was quite windy just prior, and we thought the mounted brigade, he was a little nervous.
Oh, right.
About the horse off and the horse running down the middle.
London last week, so yeah.
Yeah, so he thought, and the horse was there, it was just still in the truck.
Yeah.
And he was dressed in full getup.
It was clearly.
Yes, it was.
Jen.
So it's been a short time since the last meeting, so I thought I would just do my report slightly differently, and so I just wanted to highlight the changes by the government to Māori laws, looking at the uncertainty there'll be for a lot of people out there. Being an elected member of government can be hard as it is, but for Māori especially, it could be really, really challenging sometimes. This wasn't my plan, so it's just kind of, it can be tricky, especially in communities like this, and I just wanted to highlight that because you can get comments like you're a puppet of an iwi that you're even part of, or my favourite ones are ones like a good Māori is 6 feet under the ground, and or being reminded that this is a rural community, there are a lot of guns in it, and so be quiet and go back to where you come from. And it's a small portion of the population, but then when you've got a government also coming after you every step of the way in every aspect of your life, it can be really tough. So my thoughts are out there with all Māori across the country right now, in a really divisive time. And I'm not just attacking this government because I don't believe the way that parties like the ACT Party are approaching it are the right way, but I also don't believe parties like Te Pāti Māori are approaching it the right way either. And that instead of fighting and being divisive, we just need to come together and find a way forward. All of New Zealand, not just a section of it.
Yeah.
And on a happier note, I just want to say a big happy birthday to my youngest, who's 3 today. So looking forward to going and spending the rest of the day with her.
Awesome.
I'm just about to point out that you come from Rangoon.
I know.
And this board is all here doing our best for the community, no matter where we are from.
Yeah.
And that there is no tolerance from the Vincent Community Board for any comments such as that directed at any of that.
It's interesting to note that LGNZ has fought against the change to the Maori Ward solely on the basis that it's the only decision of councils that can be changed by a referendum such as that. So if we at council decided to institute a rural ward, for instance, off you go, you make the decision and, you know, judicial review like everything else, but not a referendum and go to a vote. So it's the absolute inequity that this is being looked at that I think is one of the issues. Yeah. See where it goes.
Yes, I'm pleased to end it on a positive note, and early childhood hours.
Oh, I know, finally not paying us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Move that those verbal reports be received, and Jane will second those. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Our next meeting is, so we're going to do our governance report first. I did have a question. Does anybody else have questions on any of those governance status reports?
What thinks in the boundary there, is that symmetry?
That's my question too. How much more is there to be done on this? Can it not just be picked up by someone else and completed? It says with resignation, sorry, page 52. Alexandra Cemetery Arnold Street boundary treatment has been going on for about 5 years now. With the resignation of the officer in charge of this project in January, the project is on hold until a replacement has been appointed. The encroachment matters will be dealt with by the newly appointed officer.
Yeah, we're just doing about lighting that team just now, so I guess it's just those works are just on pause. Just with workload and things like that, so.
Because all the steps seem to be letters being sent to the landowners, which was supposed to go out in October last year.
I'll have to pick that puppy up and take it away, but yeah.
Pick it up and take it away.
Yeah.
Find a new home.
Yeah.
Can you bring it back to Latrine, please?
Yeah. Yeah, we have had a little bit of turnover in a couple of teams that have disrupted some of our works and just, you know, prioritise them as best we can.
Right, that would be great, thank you. They've had a letter, they had a letter in May 2020 saying that the removal of the terrace water race and the alignment and the re-fencing and all of that sort of thing, and then just seem to have had stall after stall.
Cool.
Fencing and irrigation is complete on the Hogan boundary.
Just the remainder of it.
The trees have been dealt with, or are being dealt with, so it's
mostly dealt with, yeah.
and they're planting along the boundary with the houses on there looks nice, so I'm not sure what part it is that still
The
needs to be
final
done.
completion.
Yeah.
Let me take that away.
Any other questions on those status reports? Yes, I'm happy to move that they be received. And Tony, can you second that? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Date of the next meeting, we are out to the 4th of June, which is in Clean Hearings. Yes.
We won't know until the consultation closes on the 26th of May, whether or not there will be a need for a BCB hearing. So it might end up being cancelled late when we notice it. Know that there's no need for it, and we'll cancel it, we won't know until pretty close to the date.
Not a problem. And I would just remind the public to have a look on the website, CODC website, of how they can submit on the annual plan, whether they want to do it in person or in writing or via an interpretive dance at the hearings panel. Everybody should definitely take the opportunity to read through, pay attention, see where the cost increases are coming from, and then submit, especially if there's something that you have missed or they've got a wonderful idea. Resolution to exclude the public on page 67. For the reasons outlined, we move into public excluded. Somebody can move that. Thank you, Jaden. Seconded, Roger. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much for the wonderful hundreds of people who have no doubt been following along on our book.
Me too.
Yes.